My world ended, and I woke up as the tragic heroine in one of those misery-lit novels. You know the type. The female lead gets tortured, emotionally and physically, suffers a miscarriage, has her eyes gouged out, a kidney stolen, and then dies a miserable death. Only then does the male lead realize she was framed for everything, and he spends the rest of his life wallowing in regret. Seriously, I was so mad at this completely lawless world that I cursed myself to sleep. When I opened my eyes, I had been dropped right into the day the heroine is framed by the male lead's perfect first love and loses her baby. Oh, this was going to be fun. I grabbed my phone and dialed 3 numbers. Help! Someone just tried to kill me. I'm about to find out if you people have cops in this twisted literary universe of yours. When I came to, I was lying in a hospital bed. The biting scent of antiseptic made me wrinkle my nose. Ooh. A tall figure in a black trench coat stood beside the bed, his voice as cold as ice. If you're awake, stop playing dead. Go apologize to Chloe. Why did that line sound so familiar? Isn't this from that trashy novel I was reading before bed? Julian Cole was movie star handsome, standing silhouetted against the window, hands shoved in his pockets, posing like he was the main character. And in this story, I guess he was. In the original novel, Julian and the heroine, Ashley Hayes, had a marriage of convenience. Ashley had been in love with him for years, and Julian was unknowingly falling for her, too, right until his perfect first love, Chloe Vance, returned to the country. To break them up and take Ashley's place, Chloe tried to drug Julian and sleep with him. But through a twist of fate, Julian ended up in bed with Ashley instead. Forced to improvise, Chloe framed Ashley, claiming she was the one who drugged him. Ashley couldn't defend herself, and Julian, convinced she was a manipulative schemer, grew distant. From that one night, Ashley got pregnant. The first trimester was already precarious, but Chloe showed up at their house, deliberately provoking Ashley before pushing her down a flight of stairs, causing an immediate miscarriage. And this arsehole wants me to apologize to her? I'm not the original Ashley. I'm here to collect. I scowled impatiently. Apologize? Go to hell. Julian froze. After a brief moment of shock, his brow furrowed even deeper. Finally dropping the act, Chloe was right. Your whole gentle, understanding persona was just a front. He stepped forward, grabbing my arm to drag me out of bed. You carelessly fell down the stairs and then framed Chloe. She's so racked with guilt that she hasn't eaten or had a drop of water since you've been unconscious. If you have any decency, you'll go apologize to her right now. Screw you. I yanked my arm back. The room spun, and a wave of dizziness washed over me. This body was still incredibly weak from miscarriage. I lifted my gaze to meet his and held out my hand. Give me my phone. Julian's frown deepened, but seeing my pale face, a flicker of pity crossed his eyes. He pulled out his phone as he lectured. Fine, you can call her to apologize. I'll let it slide this time since you're unwell, but you can't be so arrogant in the future, or else. He was still talking, but I had already snatched the phone and deliberately pressed 3 digits. The call connected instantly. I spoke calmly. Hello, 911, I'd like to report an assault. Julian. The police were fast. Within minutes, several officers were gathered around my hospital bed. I cleared my throat and burst into tears. Officers, you have to help me. I pointed a trembling finger at the dumbfounded Julian. My husband is cheating on me with his mistress, and that woman pushed me down the stairs. My baby is gone because of her. War. They're monsters. My poor baby. Julian's face turned ashen. He stammered under the officer's stern, scrutinizing gazes. I'm not. I didn't. Julian. Everyone turned to the doorway. There stood Chloe Vance, dressed in a delicate white dress, looking fragile and pitiful. What a damn actress. My mind raced. I had to strike first before she could spin her web of lies and confuse everyone with her damsel in distress act. I ripped the 4-needle from the back of my hand, scrambled to the corner of the bed, and messed up my own hair, screaming hysterically. Help me! She's here! The murderer is here! She's going to kill me! She killed my baby! Chloe's carefully constructed expression of vulnerability almost cracked. She took 2 stiff steps forward. Julian started towards her, but the lead officer blocked his path. Sir, the complainant has accused you both of assault. We need to understand the situation. Please refrain from approaching her. Chloe? Another officer came over to calm me down. I pretended to compose myself, shivering as I hid behind him. She's the one who pushed me down the stairs. My poor baby was only 3 months along. It never even got a chance to see the world. Julian's face was livid. Ashley, what nonsense are you spouting? You fell by accident and you're blaming Chloe. How dare you call the police? Wasting police resources is a crime, you know. I clutched the officer's sleeve, my voice small and pathetic. She really did push me. After I found out I was pregnant, I had security cameras installed all over the house for safety. The footage will prove it. One of the officers nodded, got the address from me, and quickly left with his partner to retrieve the surveillance footage. Chloe looked like she was about to faint. She had acted so brazenly because she thought there were no witnesses. It never occurred to her there might be cameras. The original Ashley was a real piece of work, too. Why have evidence and not use it, choosing instead to suffer in silence? Was she some kind of performance artist? The police returned shortly, and the footage from the body cam was crystal clear. It showed Chloe backing me towards the stairs, her words sharp and cruel, before she shoved my shoulder, sending me tumbling down. A pool of crimson spread beneath me. Julian, who had rushed in after hearing the commotion, only saw Chloe kneeling beside me, looking helpless. Chloe's legs gave out, and she collapsed to the floor with a thud. Julian shook his head, muttering in disbelief. Impossible. Chloe really. She really killed my child. Chloe crawled over to him, grabbing his pant leg. Julian, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I just wanted her to stop clinging to you. I never meant to kill your baby. It was an accident. Please, forgive me, please. I couldn't take it anymore. What is wrong with you? Who are you asking for forgiveness? I'm the one you pushed down the stairs. I'm the one who had a miscarriage. I'm the victim still lying in this hospital bed. You're crying at the wrong damn funeral, you idiot. Chloe, Julian, the cops. Oops, broke character. I quickly clutched my stomach, my voice turning mournful again. The evidence is undeniable, officers. Chloe Vance is guilty of assault, and I want to press charges. Please, arrest her. That woman is a venomous, manipulative snake. She'll just find other ways to hurt me. I'm so scared. Every time I think about my dead child, I can't even sleep. Despite my terrible acting, the assault was undeniable. Chloe was arrested and taken away. She'd be held for at least a few days. Julian stared at me, then at Chloe's retreating back as she struggled against the officers. A look of complete confusion washed over his handsome face. What are you looking so lost for, genius? You're no better. I settled back onto the hospital bed. Julian, I want a divorce. His lips trembled. A divorce? What right do you have to ask me for divorce? And there it is. The classic line from a toxic CEO. I grabbed the glass of water from the nightstand and held it straight at his head. You think having a little money makes you a king who can buy my freedom? I'm telling you I want a divorce. and I'm getting one. It has nothing to do with rights. It's a power the law gives me, not a favor you grant. I'll have the divorce papers sent to you tomorrow. If you dare refuse to sign, I'll leak what happened today. CEO of Coal Enterprises cheats on wife, conspires with mistress to cause her miscarriage. Just wait and see what that does to your stock price and your board of directors. A gash opened on Julian's forehead where the glass hit, and a bead of blood trickled down. Fresh water stains dotted his black trench coat. He had probably never looked so pathetic in his entire life. The confusion in his eyes only deepened. Ashley, you're not supposed to be like this. I laughed coldly. Then what am I supposed to be like? A doormat. You and Chloe can walk all over me and I shouldn't make a sound. I should be sweet and obedient while I watch you flirt with your mistress. I should just accept all the pain you dish out. Get lost. No one is going to put up with your crap forever. I'm not your mother. Julian stumbled out of the room, looking completely shattered. Suddenly, a dull ache spread through my chest. I realized it was the original Ashley's heartbreak. Don't hurt anymore, I thought. He's not worth it. Chloe was ultimately held for aggravated assault but managed to avoid more serious felony charges, likely thanks to Julian pulling some strings behind the scenes. The day after I called the police, I had a lawyer draft the divorce agreement, making sure to clearly divide all our marital assets. I never understood the heroines in those wealth of family abuse novels. Why the sudden ability about leaving with nothing, after all the physical and emotional torment? What's wrong with taking your fair share of the property? It's what you're legally owed. If anything, they should be suing for emotional damages. Unfortunately, the divorce process wasn't smooth. Julian refused to sign the papers. After several failed attempts to reason with him, he sent his mother, my mother-in-law, to persuade me. Mrs. Cole, dressed in an expensive Chanel suit, took an elegant sip of her coffee before speaking. I know Julian was in the wrong, but in our world, marriages are often arrangements. Spouses play their parts. The way you involved the police last time was very unseemly. If Coal Enterprises hadn't suppressed the story, it would have been a citywide scandal. You were very immature. Wow. The apple really doesn't fall far from the tree. It's a whole family of monsters. I wasn't in the mood to be patient. I picked up my own coffee and tossed it right in her face. Arr! Mrs. Cole shrieked. Brown coffee dripped from her perfectly styled hair onto her pristine suit. Ashley, are you insane? I'm insane, driven insane by your shameless family. Your son cheats, gets his own child killed, and you're here telling me to keep quiet and swallow it? You're a hypocrite. You what? You raised a son with the morals of an alley cat, who cheats on his wife and kills his unborn child, and you think you have no responsibility in how he turned out? I what? You talk a big game about arrangements, but I seem to remember you throwing a fit when my late father-in-law was caught with a young starlet. It's all double standards with you, isn't it? If you were so damn tolerant, why didn't you arrange a few concubines for your husband? He what? Let me make this clear. I am getting this divorce. Our assets will be divided according to the law, and you won't cheat me out of a single penny that's mine. Count yourself lucky I'm not suing your hypocritical family for emotional damages. Mrs. Cole's face darkened. She decided it was time to teach me a lesson. Guards, she yelled. Take this insolent woman to the basement. I'm going to teach her some manners. That's right. I remembered now. This old witch used to constantly berate and belittle the original Ashley, using teaching her the rules as an excuse to lock her in the basement for hours, tormenting her physically and mentally. So, false imprisonment. Here, I whipped out my phone and dialed that now familiar number, 911. I'm at a villa in the hills. My mother-in-law is trying to have me illegally detained. Help me, officers. Mrs. Cole stared at me, aghast. What are you doing? I gave her a cold smirk. Giving you a little taste of civilized society. The police were as efficient as ever. When they arrived, the lead officer's gaze shifted between me and Mrs. Cole, his expression a mixture of exasperation and disbelief. You again. I scurried behind him for protection. Yes, me again. This old woman is my mother-in-law, and she was about to have me locked in the basement to stop me from divorcing her cheating son. The officer frowned at Mrs. Cole, who was now at a complete loss for words. I was just trying to scare her. Liar. If I hadn't been quick enough to call you, her bodyguards would have dragged me down there already. I pulled out my phone and hit play on an audio file, turning the volume all the way up. And I have a recording, officer. Mrs. Cole. Thankfully, I had anticipated this, which would pull something. I had started a voice memo the moment I stepped into this house. The recording captured everything: her twisted logic, her attempts to intimidate me, and her furious command to have her guards imprison me. The officer listened to the entire recording with a grim expression, then fixed his cold gaze on Mrs. Cole. This is a society of laws. Who do you think you are, some local mob boss? Unlawful confinement is a serious crime. All the fight went out of her. But I didn't actually do anything. Making threats is also illegal. For the next 15 minutes, Mrs. Cole, her hair a mess, her makeup smeared, her expensive suit stained with coffee, stood with her head down while the officers gave her a lecture on basic civics. I knew that without any actual harm done, they couldn't arrest her. But seeing her get a dressing down was a lesson in itself. A public service, really. As I left the villa with the police, the lead officer gave me a look of profound sympathy. Life is tough, he said, but you have to keep smiling. Thank you. I have a feeling I might be seeing you again. My apologies in advance. Watching the patrol car drive away, I couldn't help but think, you really have to appreciate this country's commitment to law and order. Julian kept stalling on the divorce, and I wasn't the only one getting anxious. Chloe was like an ant on a hot pan, finding new ways to harass me every few days. Too bad for her. I wasn't the original Ashley. I wasn't going to be her punching bag. She tried to have a venomous snake left at my apartment. But I, with my 800 IQ brain, had already installed a dozen new cameras. The footage captured the whole thing, and I made another call. Yes, hi, it's me again. Chloe Vance just tried to have me poisoned by a snake. Then she launched an online smear campaign, hiring a bot farm to brand me as a homewrecker and bully me on social media. She even doxed me, leaking my home address and private photos, which led to a flood of harassment. What could I do? I called the police. Officer, I'm being doxed and cyberbullied. It's taking a severe toll on my mental health. I think I'm developing severe depression. And just like that, Chloe was back in a holding cell. Even with her gone, I had no peace. Julian started following me around like a ghost, which was incredibly annoying. What the hell do you want? I finally cornered him in a coffee shop, fed up with his stalking. Julian looked like he'd lost weight. I couldn't tell if he was tormented by the fact that his docile wife had suddenly gone feral or that his perfect first love had turned out to be rotten to the core. After I'd sicked the cops on his mother, he had called me, furious, accusing me of disrespecting my elders. I had reamed him out in 4 different languages over the phone. He then started giving me the silent treatment, which I thoroughly enjoyed. The silence was only broken when Chloe got her second arrest for the snake incident. The man was a walking pathology. He stared silently at his coffee. I was wrong about you before, he finally said. I never thought Chloe was that kind of person. I'm sorry. Okay, apology accepted. Anything else? If not, I'm leaving. Julian's eyes were red-rimmed as he looked at me, a searching expression on his face. Ashley, why do I feel like you've changed so much? Here we go again. I rolled my eyes. What's changed? That I'm not a doormat anymore. Are you not used to that? A faint, forced smile touched his lips. You've stopped loving me. Now it was my turn to be silent. I no longer felt the original Ashley's residual heartbreak. Maybe losing the baby, coupled with Julian's betrayal, had finally severed that connection for good. I gave him a solemn nod. You're right about that. Julian's expression turned utterly pathetic. Why? Why? Are you serious? You're a married man who couldn't keep it in his pants, who romanticized someone that got away nonsense. Your precious first love murdered our child, and now that you see her for the black-hearted witch she is, you're asking me why. Because you shattered my heart, you idiot. You have 2 eyes under those eyebrows. Can't you see anything for yourself? Is that a head on your shoulders or a tumor? All you do is ask questions. Try some self-reflection for once instead of interrogating everyone else. Julian. After that tirade, I felt great. I had no idea how he felt, nor did I care. I grabbed my bag to leave. Just before walking out, I turned back. Sign the papers soon. Otherwise, I'm taking you to court. As expected, Julian was as stubborn as a mule. Another 2 weeks went by, Chloe was released again, and he still refused to sign. So, I hired the best divorce lawyer money could buy and filed for a contested divorce. While waiting for the court date, I avoided Julian like the plague. I couldn't stand his twisted logic or his pathetic attempts at playing the remorseful husband. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. In the courtroom, my lawyer presented all the evidence of Chloe's harassment. She also showed the court years of cold, indifferent text messages from Julian to the original Ashley, screenshots of Mrs. Cole's demeaning and abusive messages, and the provocative videos and photos Chloe had sent Ashley to taunt her. The defendant, Julian Cole, and the plaintiff shared a weak emotional foundation. He was indifferent to her life, failed to fulfill his responsibilities as a husband, and did not maintain the fidelity required in a marriage. He continued an emotional entanglement with Ms. Chloe Vance. It was Mr. Cole's tacit approval that allowed Ms. Vance to escalate her campaign of psychological torment against my client, which culminated in Ms. Vance pushing my client down a flight of stairs, causing a miscarriage. Furthermore, she later attempted to poison my client with a venomous snake. Both incidents are corroborated by police reports and official records from the local precinct. Throughout this marriage, my client, Ms. Ashley Hayes, has endured immense pain and suffering, resulting in severe emotional and physical trauma. The defendant, Mr. Julian Cole, is the party at fault in this marriage. We request that the court grant an immediate dissolution of the marriage. I gave my lawyer a discreet thumbs up. Worth every penny. The court ruled in my favor, granting the divorce and ordering an equitable division of our marital assets. Walking out of the courthouse, for the first time in a long time, the sun felt warm and my future felt bright. Julian stumbled out after me, trying to grab my hand. I dodged him easily. Excuse me. We are no longer married. Please do not touch me, or I'll file a harassment complaint. He looked lost. I'm sorry. I didn't know Chloe sent you those things. But the photos of us. They were fake. Nothing ever happened between us. I stared at him, bewildered. And how is that my problem? Ashley, you. Julian's voice choked. I've been thinking a lot lately. I realized. I think I'm in love with you. I just didn't see it before. What I had with Chloe was just nostalgia for a past that never was. My face contorted in disgust. Whoa, stop right there. Don't make this any more awkward than it already is, ex-husband. His handsome features were etched with misery. I regret not cherishing you. You have every right to hate me. Ashley, I'll do whatever it takes to make it up to you. I was already walking away. If he wanted to compensate me, he already had. The wire transfer was all the apology I needed. I assumed Julian's little speech outside the courthouse was just empty words, but it turned out he was serious. He started appearing everywhere. Fresh roses were delivered daily. Trendy jewelry from luxury brands would be left on my doorstep. Exquisite breakfasts were sent over every morning. He tirelessly performed these grand gestures, convinced he was being deeply romantic. To be honest, it was a nuisance. Once you decide to move on, you don't accept gifts from the person who broke you. That's a rule. So, every morning, I fed the gourmet breakfast to the stray cats and dogs in my neighborhood. They seemed to enjoy it. Julian paid, but the good karma was all mine. The flowers were always beautiful, fragrant with morning dew, but I had no use for them. I stuck them in the public flower beds along the sidewalk, doing my part for civic beautification. The expensive jewelry was the tricky part. After some thought, I hired a courier to have it all delivered to his mother's villa in the hills. I heard she fainted several times and repeatedly screamed at Julian for being a spineless fool. I hadn't felt a single pang of the original Ashley's emotions in a long time. She had probably, truly, let go. As much as I criticized her for being a pushover, being kind-hearted isn't a crime. She was just a poor woman caught in a terrible story. I took over her body, and in doing so, I hope I've changed her tragic fate. Her life is my life now. Julian's relentless pursuit was becoming unbearable. One day, after a shopping trip, he resumed his creepy trailing. I finally snapped and called the police again. "Officer, I'm being stalked." Julian. When the police arrived, Julian was squatting dejectedly by a telephone pole. The officer's face was as dark as a thundercloud. "Are you kidding me?" Julian looked up, his eyes red and pleading. "I'm just trying to win back my ex-wife." The officer's response was swift and righteous. "First of all, where was this energy when you were married? Second, there's a fine line between grand romantic gestures and harassment, and you, sir, are tap dancing all over it." In the end, under the officer's mediation, Julian promised to stop using stalking and other methods that could cause a public alarm to win me back. Before leaving, the officer patted me on the shoulder and said, with the gravity of a war-weary soldier, "I hope you find peace soon." I nearly burst into tears. He just gets me. Julian watched me from a distance, his figure looking desolate. "Ashley," he called out, "can I ask you one question?" "Go ahead." "Are you really Ashley?" His question hung in the air, and for a long moment, we were both silent. He must have realized it too. The Ashley standing before him was a completely different person from the woman he married. I thought for a moment. "What answer are you hoping for?" A small, sad smile touched his lips. "I don't know. You've changed so much, I don't know how to act around you anymore. If I say I'm not her, will that make you feel better? Will you be able to delude yourself into thinking the real Ashley is still out there somewhere, loving you just as she always did?" "Let me be perfectly clear," I continued. "Ashley is done loving you. The damage you did is unforgivable. It doesn't matter who is standing here talking to you right now. That fact will never change. If I had realized sooner, he murmured, would things have been different? There are no what ifs in this world. I walked away without looking back. After that day, Julian finally started acting like a normal person. He still did some odd, unnecessary things, but at least he was no longer a major disruption in my life. I spent my day shopping, trying new cafes, and signing up for classes to improve myself. The massive settlement from the divorce was more than enough to ensure a life of comfort, freedom, and happiness. Chloe, on the other hand, was not having such a good time. I heard Julian, in a fit of rage, had started digging into her past. He discovered that her reason for leaving him to go abroad years ago wasn't because her parents forced her, as she'd claimed. The truth was, his mother, Eleanor, had found her to be manipulative and scheming, and paid her $3 million to get out of Julian's life. Julian also investigated her social circle overseas and found out the real reason she returned. She had been the mistress of a wealthy businessman, but his wife found out, beat her half to death, and ruined her reputation. Unable to survive there any longer, she came back to manipulate Julian, the big idiot who still saw her through the soft focus lens of a first love, into being her meal ticket. Combined with the harassing messages my lawyer had revealed in court, Julian finally snapped. Furious at her deception, he filed a lawsuit against Chloe, demanding she repay every cent he had ever spent on her, a sum totaling roughly $40 million. Good for him. He was finally learning to use the legal system. But wait a minute. That $40 million was technically our marital property. I heard that Chloe had a complete breakdown in court and tried to attack Julian, causing chaos. A classic case of dog eat dog. I heard the story and promptly forgot about it. I was too busy enjoying the lavish, carefree life my divorce settlement had afforded me. One evening, after finishing a class, I decided to walk home to unwind. As I passed through a narrow alley, a dark figure lunged out. A blade flashed in front of my eyes. Before I could react, another figure shot out from the other side, throwing himself in front of me. I stood there, stunned, staring at the deranged-looking Chloe holding a bloody knife, and at Julian, who now had that knife buried in his abdomen. See? Another crime. I'm so tired of these lawless maniacs. Chloe hadn't expected Julian to jump in front of me. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hair a mess. There was no trace of the weak, delicate flower she once pretended to be. She glared at me with pure hatred. Ashley, this is all your fault. If you hadn't stolen my place, I would be Mrs. Cole right now. You turned Julian against me. You ruined my life. You're a bitch, and you deserve to die. With a surge of adrenaline, she yanked the knife out of Julian and charged at me. Julian, weak from blood loss, staggered and couldn't move to protect me. As Chloe lunged, I didn't hesitate. I delivered a powerful kick straight to her chest. Sorry, but that class I just finished, advanced Taekwondo. In a world with this many aspiring felons, I figured I needed more than just the police on my side. A little self-defense couldn't hurt. Caught completely off guard, Chloe was knocked flat on her back. I rushed forward, twisted her arms behind her, and pinned her to the ground. I ripped off my jacket and used it to tie her wrists together in a tight, makeshift knot. I dusted off my hands and gave the squirming Chloe a light kick. You're sick. You bring nothing but misery to yourself and others, and you still have the nerve to blame me? I suppose if you're constipated, it's my fault for not giving you a laxative, you dumbass. Ashley, you bitch. I hope you rot in hell. I'll haunt you even as a ghost. Wara. Her screaming was getting on my nerves. I took off one of my socks and stuffed it in her mouth. A few feet away, Julian finally collapsed, falling unconscious. I took out my phone and, for the last time, dialed 911. Hello, it's me again. And this time, it's serious. There's been a stabbing. Then I did the responsible thing and called an ambulance for Julian. We law-abiding citizens have to stick together. When the police arrived, they stared at the scene, one person tied up and gagged on the ground, the other bleeding out, and just sighed. I looked at the lead officer with a somber expression. She's probably going to prison for a long time for this one. I sincerely hope this is the last time I have to bother you. For assault with a deadly weapon causing grievous bodily harm, Chloe was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The knife had damaged several of Julian's internal organs. He lay in the ICU, hovering between life and death. It seemed I had finally, truly escaped the fate of having my eyes and kidneys harvested. I could now live out my days peacefully in this world, as Ashley Hayes. I went to the hospital for a full checkup. The results came back perfect. I was as healthy as an ox. As I was leaving the clinic, I happened to pass by the intensive care unit. An old woman with greying hair rushed out, fell to her knees, and grabbed onto my legs. It was Julian's mother. Worn down with worry for her critically injured son, she looked 10 years older than the last time I saw her. Ashley, I was wrong. I'm begging you, on my knees. Please, go in and see Julian. I'm begging you. He's still in a coma. The doctor said if he doesn't regain consciousness by tonight, they'll have to declare him brain dead. Please, have a heart. We were wrong about everything. Just think of it as saving a stray dog. Do it as a good deed. I'll kowtow to you. She started banging her head on the linoleum floor. The hospital corridor was crowded, and people were starting to stare. It was mortifying. I tried to leave, but the old woman, despite her frail state, had a surprisingly strong grip on my leg. Fine. I sighed and laid out my terms. I'll go in, but you can't close the door, and I'm keeping my phone camera recording. For my own safety. Mrs. Cole nodded frantically. Feeling slightly more secure, I followed her into the room. Julian was lying on the bed, hooked up to a dozen machines, tubes running in and out of his body. His handsome face was colourless, his breathing shallow. I looked for a few seconds, then turned to his mother. Okay, I've seen him. Can I go now? Before she could answer, the heart monitor beside Julian's bed started blaring. Mrs. Cole cried out in alarm and ran to get a doctor. And then, Julian's eyes fluttered open. We stared at each other in silence. I had absolutely no idea what to say. He struggled to form words, his voice a mere whisper. Are you? Really? Ashley? I paused, then finally shook my head. No. A faint smile touched his lips, as if he already knew. Then where is she? He rasped. I considered it for a moment. She died, I said. You and Chloe Vance killed her. His breathing grew ragged. Tears streamed from his eyes, soaking into the pillow. He tried to sit up, but his body wouldn't obey. The veins on his forehead bulged, his eyes turning bloodshot. He was a terrifying sight. I took a step back. If you manage to survive this, spend the rest of your life atoning for what you did. And if you die, do her a favor and don't go looking for her. You won't find her anyway. Don't dirty her path to reincarnation. A team of doctors rushed into the room. Over the sound of Mrs. Cole's tragic sobs, I turned and walked out of the hospital, and I didn't look back. I heard Julian didn't die. He slipped into a persistent vegetative state, destined to spend the rest of his life in a bed. He was the only son, with no heir. Without its leader, and with a matriarch who knew nothing beyond shopping, afternoon tea, and beauty treatments, the mighty Cole enterprises crumbled under internal power struggles and slowly faded into obscurity. I visited Chloe in prison once. She was skeletal, her cheeks sunken and her eyes bulging. Life behind bars had not been kind to her. Ashley's story, it seems, is finally over. I survived in her place. But where did the real Ashley's soul go? I only hope that wherever she is, she never meets the people from her past again, and that she has found a new, better life.